two are called a law firm, and then 3 or more become a Congress. By God, I have had this Congress! For 10 years, King George and his parliament have gulled, cullied, and diddled these colonies with their illegal taxes. Stamp Acts, Townsend Acts, Sugar Acts, Tea Acts! And when we dared stand up like men, they stopped our trade, seized our ships, blockaded our ports, burned our towns, and spilled our blood. And still, this Congress won't grant any of my proposals on independence, even so much as the courtesy of open debate. Good God! What in hell are they waiting for?
Sit down, John. Sit down, John. For God's sake, John, sit down. Sit down, John. Sit down, John. For God's sake, John, sit down.
Open up a window.
It's 90 degrees. Have mercy, John, please. It's hot as hell in Philadelphia.
That you have John Adams to abuse, for no sane man would tolerate it.
John, you're a bore. We've heard this before. For God's sake, John, sit down. No! No!
Independency.
Someone open up a window.
Say vote, yes.
Sit down, John.
Vote for independency.
Someone shut that man up?
Never! Never! Dear God, for 1 solid year, this Congress has been sitting. For 1 year! Doing nothing! I do lay the curse on, will never come. A curse that we hear now reversing in Philadelphia. A second flood, a simple famine, plagues of locusts everywhere, or a cataclysmic earthquake, I'd accept with some despair. I know you sent us Congress. Good God, sir, was that fair? I say this with humility in Philadelphia. We're your responsibility in Philadelphia. If you don't want to see us hanging on some far-off British hill, you want the voice of independency forever still. God, sir, get thee to it, for Congress never will. You see, we twiddle and resolve, not damn what we solve. Hill, twiddle, and resolve. Nothing's ever solved is found, feeding, fury, foggy, filthy Philadelphia.
Someone open up a window.
Oh, shut up!
I will now call the Congress's attention to Mr. Melchior May, who claims $20 compensation for his dead mule. It seems the animal was employed transporting luggage in the service of the Congress.
The question then appears to be one of occasion, for if the mule expired not while carrying, but after being unloaded, then surely the beast dropped dead on its own time.
Good God! They may sit here for years and years in Philadelphia. These indecisive grenadiers of Philadelphia. They can't agree you done as I asked?
No, John, I have not.
Why have you not?
Because you have neglected to tell us how saltpeter is made.
By drinking sodium nitrate and potassium chloride, of course.
Of course.
Will it be done then?
I'm afraid we have a more urgent problem, John.
More urgent matter?
There's one thing everyone is missing. Massachusetts. Don't smile at me, you just peg. Heed to what I say. We've been from Framingham to Boston, and we cannot find a thing. Don't you know that there's a war on the brain? Well, we will not make saltpeter until you send us pins.
Pins, madam. Saltpeter.
Pins.
Saltpeter.
Pins.
Saltpeter.
Pins.
Saltpeter.
Pins.
Peter.
Pins.
Peter.
Pins.
Peter.
Pins.
Peter.
Pins.
Done, madam. Done.
Done, John. Hurry home, John.
As soon as I'm able.
Don't stop writing. It's all I have.
Every day, my dearest friend. As I ever was and ever shall
For God's sake, John, sit down.
Franklin! 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 Where in God's name were you when I needed you?
Oh, right here, John, being preserved for posterity. Do you like it?
It stinks.
As ever, the soul of tact.
The man's no
The
Botticelli.
subject's no Venus.
Franklin, have you heard what I suffered in there?
Heard? Of course I've heard, John, along with the rest of Philadelphia. Lord, your voice is piercing.
I wish to heaven my arguments were. By God, Franklin, when will they make up their minds? With one hand, they raise an army, dispatch one of their own to lead it, and cheer the news from Bunker's Hill. While with the other, they wave the olive branch, begging the king for a happy and permanent reconciliation. By God, Fat George has declared us a rebellion. Why in bloody hell can't they?
John, really? You talk as if independence were the rule. It's never been done before. No colony has broken from its parent stem in the history of the world.
Damn it, Franklin, you make us sound treasonous.
Do I? Treason. Treason is a charge invented by winners as an excuse for hanging the losers.
I have more to do than stand here listening to you quote yourself.
No, that was a new one.
Damn it, Franklin, we're at war!
To defend ourselves, nothing more. We expressed our displeasure, the English moved against us, and we in turn have resisted. Now, our fellow congressmen want to effect a reconciliation before it becomes a war.
Reconciliation, my ass. The people want independence.
The people have read Mr. Paine's Common Sense. I doubt Congress has. Why don't you give it up, John? Nobody listens to you. You're obnoxious and disliked.
I'm not promoting John Adams. I'm promoting independence.
Evidently, they cannot help connecting the two.
What are you suggesting?
Let somebody else in Congress propose.
Never! Why? Who did you have in mind?
Oh, well, I don't know. I hadn't really given it much thought.
You sent for me, Benjamin? Hello, Johnny.
Richard.
Richard! John and I could use some advice.
Well, if it's mine to give, it's yours. You know that.
Thank you, Richard. Now, as you know, the cause that we support has come to a complete standstill. Now, why do you suppose that is?
Simple. Johnny here is obnoxious and disliked.
Yes, that's true. Now, what's the solution, I wonder?
Get someone else in Congress to propose.
Richard, that's brilliant. Wasn't that brilliant, John?
Brilliant.
Yes. Now, the question remains, who can it be? The man we need must belong to a delegation publicly committed to supporting the cause, and at the present time, only Massachusetts, New Hampshire, and Delaware have declared our way.
And Virginia, Benji. Don't forget Virginia.
No, I haven't, Richard. How could I? But strictly speaking, while Virginia's views on independence are well known, your legislature in Williamsburg has never formally authorized its delegation here in Congress to support the cause. Now, if we could think of a Virginian with enough influence to go down there and persuade the House of Burgesses.
Well, damn me if I haven't thought of somebody.
Who?
Me.
Why didn't I think of that?
I'll leave tonight. Why, hell, I'll leave right now if you like. I'll just stop off at Stratford long enough to refresh the missus, and then straight to the matter. Virginia, the land that gave us our glorious commander-in-chief, George Washington, will now give the continent its proposal on independence. And when Virginia proposes, the South is bound to follow. And where the South goes, the middle colonies go. Gentlemen, a salute to Virginia, the mother of American independence.
Incredible. We're free, and he hasn't even left yet. What makes you so sure you can do it?
Ha! My name is Richard Henry Lee, Virginia is my home. My name is Richard Henry Lee, Virginia is my home. And may my horses turn blue if I can't run resolution on independency. For I am FFB, the first family in the sovereign colony of Virginia. Yes, the FFB, the oldest family in the oldest colony in America. And may the British burn my land if I can't deliver to your hand resolution on independency. You see, it's really, verily, everywhere really, socially,
Politically, naturally, financially, internally, externally, fraternally, eternally.
The FFB, the first family in the sovereign colony of Virginia. And may my wife refuse my bed if I can't deliver, as I said, resolution on independency.
Spoken modestly. God help us.
It will, John, it will. They say that God in heaven is everybody's God.
Amen.
I'll admit that God in heaven is everybody's God. But I'll tell you, John, with pride, God leans a little on the side of the leaves of all Virginia. You see, it's eerily, verily, everywhere of the early, eerily, verily, everywhere of the. Look out, there's Arthur Lee, Bobby Lee, and General Light Horse Harry Lee, Willie Lee, Jesse Lee,
And Richard H.
that's me. And
The most revolting display I ever witnessed.
They're warm-blooded people, Virginians.
Not him, Franklin. You! You and your infernal obsession for deviousness. If you'd have come right out and asked him straight, he'd have been gone a half an hour ago.
Cheer up, John. Our cause is once again riding high, sitting straight in the saddle and in full gallop for Virginia.
And our women are serene, full-bosomed.
Full-bosomed?
Full-bosomed, Benji. Everyone a queen. Why, they are lees, damn it, lees for Virginia.
Yes?
I'm Dr. Lyman Hall, new delegate from Georgia.
I'm Major McNair, Congressional Custodian. If you'll be needing anything at all, well, just haul out McNair's, you'll hit the LD Zoo, and there won't be too long to wait.
Where does the Georgia delegation belong?
Oh, they about over in this corner near the two Carolinas.
It's after 10. I was told the Congress convenes at 10.
They'll be arriving any minute now. With old Grape and Guts in the pack.
Old who?
McNair!
Grape and Guts.
McNair, fetch me a mug of rum.
Mr. Hopkins, you'll be pleased to meet Dr.
Oh, I need a doctor, damn it.
Delegate from Georgia.
Oh, well, why didn't you say so? I'm Stephen Hopkins, old delegate from Rhode Island. McNair, 2 months of rum.
I fear it's a little early in the day.
Ah, nonsense. It's a medicinal fact that rum gets a man's heart started in the morning. Surprised you didn't know it. And speaking as the oldest man in the Congress.
Isn't Ben Franklin older by almost a year?
Rum! Now, tell me, Dr. Hall, where does Georgia stand on the question of independence?
With South Carolina, of course.
Oh, good morning, Nettie. Shake the hand of Dr. Lyman Hall from Georgia. Doctor, this here is Mr. Edward Rutledge from, well, whichever one of the Carolinas he says he's from. God knows I can't keep him straight.
A pleasure, Dr. Hall.
Your servant, Mr. Rutledge.
Well, you've met the long and short of it now, Doctor. Daddy here is only 26. He's the youngest of us.
Except for Ben Franklin.
McNair!
Your rum.
Where'd you go for it, man? Jamaica?
Tell me, Dr. Hall, where does Georgia stand on independence at the present time?
I am here without instructions, able to vote my own personal convictions.
And they are,
Personal.
Dr. Hall. The Deep South speaks with one voice. It is traditional. Even more, it is historical. Enter Delaware. Tria junta in uno.
Oh, speak, Black Rutledge. You know I can't follow none of your damn French.
Latin, Colonel McKean, a tribute to the eternal peace and harmony of the Delaware delegation.
Oh, what are you saying, man? You know perfectly well neither Rodney nor I can stand this little work.
Gentlemen. This is Dr. Lyman Hall of Georgia. Caesar Rodney, George Reed, and Colonel Thomas McKean.
Doctor.
Where do you stand on independence, sir?
With South Carolina.
I leave the doctor in your excellent company, gentlemen.
Tell me, sir, would you be a doctor of medicine or theology?
Both, Mr. Rodney. Which one can be of service?
By all means, the physician first. Then we shall see about the other.
I'll follow your convenience.
I trust, Caesar, once you're through converting the poor fellow to independence, this will give the opposition a fair character.
You're too late, John. Once I get 'em, they're got. Dr. Lyman Hall of Georgia, Mr. John Dickinson of Pennsylvania.
An honor, sir.
Your servants.
Judge Wilson, forgive me. But how can anyone see you if you insist insist on standing in Mr. Dickinson's shadow. James Wilson, also of Pennsylvania.
Sir,
An honor, sir.
will you get out of my way, please? Good morning, all.
Good lord. You have the honor to be Dr. Franklin?
Yes, I have that honor. Unfortunately, the gout accompanies the honor.
Been living a bit too high again, ain't Pappy?
Stephen, I really wish King George felt like my big toe all over.
McNair, fetch us a pillar and 2 more monks around.
Well, Franklin, where's that idiot Lee? Has he returned yet? I don't see him.
Please, John. Your voice is hurting my foot.
One more day. That's how long I'll wait, and not a minute longer. Thanks, Dr. Jesus, so damn sure of himself. He's had time to bring back a dozen proposals by now.
Tell me, James, how do you explain the strange monumental quietude this Congress has been treated to these past 30 days? Has the ill wind of independence finally blown itself out?
If you ask me,
For myself, I must confess that a month free of nuisance noise is more therapeutic than a month in the country. Don't you agree, James?
Well, I think that...
Mr. Adams, pray look for your voice, sir. It cannot be far, and God knows we need the entertainment in this Congress.
Congratulations, John. You've just made your greatest contribution to independence. You can't go flapshat.
One more day.
Gentlemen, the usual morning festivities concluded, I will now call the Congress to order. Mr. Thompson.
The Second Continental Congress, meeting in the city of Philadelphia, is now in session. 7 June 1776, the 380th meeting.
Sweet Jesus! That's a lot.
The Honorable John Hancock of Massachusetts Bay, President.
Thank you, Mr. Thompson. Mr. McNair, the stores of rum and other drinking spirits are hereby closed to the colony of Rhode Island for a period of 3 days.
John, you can't do that.
Sit down, Mr. Hopkins. You've abused the privilege. The chair takes this opportunity to welcome Dr. Lyman Hall of Georgia to this Congress and hopes you'll make the best of it. My God, it's hot. The secretary will read the roll.
All members present with the following exceptions. Mr. Charles Carroll of Maryland, Mr. Samuel Adams of Massachusetts, Mr. Button Gwinnett of Georgia, Mr. George White and Mr. Richard Henry Lee of Virginia, and the entire delegation of New Jersey.
I'm concerned over the continued absence of 1/13 of this Congress. Where is New Jersey?
Somewhere between New York and Pennsylvania.
Thank you very much. Dr. Franklin, have you heard anything? Your son resides there.
Son, sir? What son?
The Royal Governor of New Jersey, sir.
As that title might suggest, we are not in touch at the present moment.
Yes, very well. The weather report, Mr. Jefferson of Virginia. Mr. Jefferson!
Present, sir.
May we hear about the weather as if it weren't speaking for itself?
87 degrees of temperature. 30.6 inches of mercury. Winds from the southwest for the rest of the day. And tonight I leave for home.
On business.
Family business.
Give her a good one for me, young fella.
Yes, sir, I will.
From the Commander, Army of the United Colonies, New York, dispatch number 1137. To the Honorable Congress, John Hancock, President, dear sir. It is with grave apprehension that I have learned this day of the sailing from Halifax, Nova Scotia, a considerable force of British troops in the company of foreign mercenaries and under the command of General Sir William Howe. There can be no doubt that their destination is New York, for the taking hold of this city in the Hudson Valley beyond would serve to separate New England from the other colonies and maybe both sections to be crushed in turn. Sadly, I see no way of stopping them at the present time, as my army is absolutely falling apart, my military chest is totally exhausted, my commissary general has strained his credit to the last, my quartermaster has no food, no arms, no ammunition, and my troops are in a state of near mutiny. I pray God to relief arise before the Armada, but fear it not. Your obedient, G. Washington.
Mr. President,
Colonel McKee.
surely we managed to promote the gloomiest man on this continent to the head of our troops. Those dispatches are the most depressing accumulation of disaster, doom, and despair in the entire annals of military history. And furthermore,
Please, Colonel McKee.
What?
It's too hot.
Oh, yes. I suppose so.
General Washington will continue wording his dispatches as he sees fit. And I'm sure we all pray he has happier thoughts to convey in the near future. Mr. Thompson, are there any resolutions?
Dr. Josiah Bartlett of New Hampshire.
Resolved that for the duration of the present hostilities, the Congress discourage every type of extravagance and dissipation, elaborate funerals, and other expensive diversions, especially all horse racing.
I'm back, Johnny.
Richard, we're pleased to see you.
What news, Dickie boy? What news?
Lee, is it done?
First things first, Tom. Where's Tom? Tom, your little brag wants to know.
What?
When's he coming home?
I leave tonight.
Never mind that. Is it done?
Done? Why, certainly. Mr. President, I return from Virginia with the following resolution. Resolved that these United Colonies are, and of a right ought to be, free and independent states. That they are absolved from all allegiance to the British Crown, and that all political connection between them and the state of Great Britain is and ought to be totally dissolved.
Mr. President, I second the proposal.
The resolution has been proposed and is seconded. The chair will now entertain debate.
Pennsylvania moves that the question of independence be postponed indefinitely.
I second the motion.
Judge Wilson, in your eagerness to be loved, you seem to have forgotten Pennsylvania cannot second its own motion.
Delaware, second.
The motion to postpone has been moved and seconded. Mr. Thompson?
On the motion to postpone indefinitely the resolution on independency or to proceed with debate, all those in favor of debate signify by saying yea. All those for postponement signify by saying nay. New Hampshire.
New Hampshire, favors debate, and says yay.
New Hampshire says yea. Massachusetts.
Massachusetts, having borne the brunt of the king's tyranny. Massachusetts now and for all time says yay.
Massachusetts says yay. Rhode Island. Where's Mr. Hopkins?
They're out visiting the necessary.
After what Rhode Island's consumed, I can't say I'm surprised. Welcome back to him, Mr. Thompson.
Rhode Island passes. Connecticut.
While Connecticut has, till now, been against this proposal, our legislature has instructed me that in the event that it is proposed by any colony outside of New England, Connecticut cannot any longer withhold its support. Connecticut says yay.
Connecticut says yay. New York.
Mr. Secretary, New York abstains. Courteously.
New York abstains.
Courteously.
New Jersey.
Absent, Mr. Secretary.
Yes, New Jersey is absent. Pennsylvania.
Pennsylvania, as all for the 24th time, says nay.
Pennsylvania says nay. Delaware.
Delaware, as ever for independence, says yea.
Delaware says yea. Maryland.
Maryland would welcome independence if it were given, but is highly skeptical it can be taken. Maryland says nay.
Maryland says nay. Virginia.
Virginia, the first colony, says yea.
Virginia says yea. North Carolina.
North Carolina respectfully yields to South Carolina.
South Carolina.
Mr. President, although we in South Carolina have never seriously considered the question of independence, when a gentleman proposes it, attention must be paid. However, we in the Deep South, unlike our friends in New England, have no cause for impatience at the present time. If at some future date it becomes the wish of all our sister colonies to effect a separation, we will not stand in the way. But for the time being, South Carolina will wait and watch. The vote is nay.
South Carolina says nay.
North Carolina says
nay. Yes, Mr. Hughes, I know. Georgia. Georgia.
Mr. Secretary, it seems that Georgia is split right down the middle on this issue. The people are against it, and I'm for it. I'm afraid I'm not yet certain whether representing the people means relying on their judgment or on my own. So in all fairness, until I can figure that out, I'd better lean a little towards their side. Georgia says nay.
Says nay. Rhode Island, second call. Rhode Island!
I'm coming. Hold your damn horses.
We're waiting on you, Mr. Hopkins.
Well, it won't kill you. You think the Congress would have its own pisser. All right, where does she stand?
5 for debate, 5 for postponement, 1 abstention, 1 absence.
Ah, so it's up to me, is it? Well, I'll tell you. In all my years, I never seen, heard, or smelled an issue that was so dangerous it couldn't be talked about. Hell yes, I'm for debating anything. Rhode Island says yay.
This Hopkins are wrong.
But you said that.
Get him the whole damn barrel if he wants.
Yes, sir.
The chair now declares this Congress a committee of the whole for the purpose of debating Virginia's resolution on independence. Mr. Dickinson.
Well now, you've got your way at last, Mr. Adams. The matter may now be discussed. I confess I'm almost relieved. There's a question I've been very itching to ask you. Why?
Why what, Mr. Dickinson?
Why independence, Mr. Adams?
For the obvious reason that our continued association with Great Britain has grown intolerable.
To whom? To you? Then I suggest you sever your ties immediately. But please be kind enough to leave the rest of us where we are. Personally, I have no objections at all to being a part of the greatest empire on earth, to enjoying its protections and sharing its benefits.
Benefits? What benefits? Crippling taxes? Cruel repressions? Abolished rights?
Is that all England means to you, sir? Is that all the affection and pride you can muster for the nation that's bore you? For the noblest, most civilized nation on the face of this planet? Would you have us forsake Hastings and Magna Carta? Strongbow and Lion-Hearted, Drake and Marlborough, Tudor, Stuarts and Plantagenets? For what, sir? Tell me for what? For you, some men are patriots, like General Washington, and some men are anarchists, like Mr. Payne. Some even are internationalists, like Dr. Franklin. Charming. But you, sir, you are merely an agitator, disturbing the peace, creating disorder, endangering the public welfare. And for what? Your petty little personal complaints. Your taxes are too high. Well, sir, so are mine. Come on, Mr. Adams, if you have grievances, and I'm sure you have. Our present system must provide a gentler means of redressing them short of revolution. That's what he wants. Nothing short of it will satisfy him. Violence, rebellion, treason. Now, Mr. Adams, are these the acts of Englishmen?
Not Englishmen, Dickinson. American!
No, sir! Englishmen!
Mr. Dickinson, what must you start banging? How's a man to sleep?
Forgive me, Dr. Franklin, but must you start speaking? How is a man to stay awake? We'll promise to remain quiet, sir. I'm sure everyone prefers to remain asleep.
If I'm to be called an Englishman, then I assure you I prefer I'd stayed asleep.
What's so terrible about being called an Englishman? The English don't seem to mind.
Nor would I, were I given the full rights of an Englishman. But to call me one without those rights is much like calling an ox a bull. He's thankful for the honor, but he'd much rather have restored what's rightfully his.
When did you first notice they were missing, sir? Fortunately, Dr. Franklin, the people of these colonies maintain a much higher regard for their mother country.
Higher certainly than she feels for them. Never before was such a valuable possession so recklessly and stupidly managed than this entire continent by the British Crown. Our industry discouraged, our resources pillaged, and worst of all, our very character stifled. We spawned a new race here in America. Rougher, simpler, less refined, more violent, more enterprising. We're a new nationality, Mr. Dickinson. We require a new nation.
That's maybe your opinion, Dr. Franklin. But as I said, the people feel quite differently.
What do you know of the people, Dickinson? You don't represent the people. You represent only yourself. And that precious status quo you keep imploring the people to preserve for their good is nothing more than the eternal preservation of your own property.
Mr. Adams, you have an annoying talent to make such delightful words as property. It sounds quite distasteful. In heaven's name, what's wrong with property? Perhaps you have forgotten that many of us first came to these shores in order to secure rights to property, and that we hold those rights no less dear than the rights you speak of.
So safe, so fat, so comfortable in Pennsylvania.
And what is this independence of yours but the private grievance of Massachusetts? Why is it always Boston that breaks the king's peace? My dear Congress, you must not adopt this evil measure. It's the work of the devil. Leave it where it belongs. In New England.
Brother Dickinson, New England has been fighting the devil for more than 100 years.
And as of now, Brother Sherman, the devil has been winning hands down. Why, at this very moment, he's sitting right here in this Congress. Don't let him deceive you. His proposal is entirely his doing.
Just a minute!
It may bear Virginia's name, but it reeks of Adams, Adams, and more Adams. Look at him, ready to lead this continent down the fiery path of total destruction.
Good God, man! Why can't you acknowledge what already exists? It's been more than a year since Concord and Lexington. Damn it, man, we're at war right now!
You! Maybe it's war. You, Boston and John Adams. But you will never speak for Pennsylvania.
Or for Delaware.
Represents only 1/3 of Delaware.
A sensible third, Mr. Rodney.
Sit down, you little girls, and I'll knock it down.
All three of you! Now do something about these damn flies.
McNair, fetch me a rum.
Oh, get the flies.
The rum.
I've only got 2 hands.
Christ, it's hot. Please do go on, gentlemen. You're making the only breeze in Philadelphia.
Mr. Adams, perhaps you could clear something up for me. Once we have achieved independence, who do you propose would govern in South Carolina?
The people, of course.
Which people, sir? The people of South Carolina or the people of Massachusetts?
Why don't you admit it, Betty? You're against independence now, and you always will be. Die!
You refuse to understand us, gentlemen. We desire independence. Yes, for South Carolina. That is our country. And as such, we don't wish it to belong to anybody. Not to England, and not to you.
We intend to be one nation, Rutledge.
A nation of sovereign states, united for our mutual protection, but separate for our individual pursuits. That is what we have understood it to be, and that is what we will support, as soon as everyone supports it.
There you are, Mr. Adams. You must see we need time to make certain who we are and where we stand in regards to one another. For if we don't determine the nature of the beast before we set it free, it will end by consuming us all.
For once in your life, Wilson, I say take a chance. The time is now. It may never come again.
Your clock must be fast, Mr. Adams. I say we're not yet ripe for independence.
Not yet, right? Hell, we're running for one.
Gentlemen, please. What in God's name is the infernal hurry? Why must this question be settled now?
What's wrong with now, Mr. Chase?
General Washington is in the field. If he is defeated, as it now appears, we'll be inviting the hangman. But if by some miracle he should actually win, we can then declare anything we damn please.
The sentiments of North Carolina precisely.
Has it ever occurred to either of you that an army needs something to fight for in order to win? A cause, a purpose, a flag of its own?
Mr. Adams, how can a nation of only 2 million souls stand up to an empire of 10 million? Think of it, 10 million. How do we compensate that shortage?
Oh, it's simple, Mr. Chase. Increase and multiply.
How's that? We will more than compensate with spirit. I tell you, there's a spirit out there with the people that is sadly lacking in this Congress.
Yes, of course. Now it's spirits. Why didn't I think of that? No army, no navy, no arms, no ammunition, no treasury, no friends. But bless our soul, spirits. Mr. Lee, Mr. Hopkins, Mr. Rodney, Colonel McKean, Dr. Franklin. Why have you joined this incendiary little man? This Boston radical, this agitator, this demagogue, this madman.
Are you calling me a madman? You fribble!
Easy, John.
You Pennsylvania proprietors! You cool, considerate men! You'll stand to the rear of any issue. so that if it all goes under, you'll still remain afloat.
Are you calling me a coward?
Yes! Coward!
Madman!
Landlord!
Lawyer!
Whack 'em, John!
Shut up! Stop it! This is a Congress! Stop it, I say! The enemy is out there!
No, Mr. Rodney. The enemy is here.
No, I say he's out there! England! Closing in, cutting off our air! There's no time, no air! Thomas!
Caesar! To the hole!
Colonel McKinnon,
Died. It's the cancer.
he should go home.
Yes. Man should die in his own bed. John,
I'm here, Caesar.
I leave you a divided Delaware. Forgive me.
El Tiquion, Caesar. I'll be back within the week.
Mr. President, South Carolina calls the question.
What's that, Mr. Rutledge?
I said, Mr. President, that South Carolina desires to end the debate and call the question of independence.
Delaware seconds!
Gentlemen, please! The question has been called and seconded. Mr. Secretary, you will record the vote.
Franklin, do something. Think!
I am thinking. Nothing's coming.
All those in favor of the resolution on independence as proposed by the colony of Virginia signify by...
Mr. Secretary, would you read the resolution again?
Oh.
I've forgotten it.
Oh, come now.
Resolved that these united colonies are, and right ought to be, free and independent.
I beg your pardon. I'm the Reverend John Witherspoon, new delegate from New Jersey. Dr. Franklin and I regret to be the bearer of unhappy tidings, but your son, the royal governor of New Jersey, is taken prisoner and has been moved to the colony of Connecticut for safekeeping.
Is he unharmed, sir?
When I last heard, he was, yes, sir.
Then why the long face? I hear Connecticut's an excellent location. Tell me, why'd they arrest the little bastard?
Our New Jersey legislature has recalled the old delegation of this Congress and has sent a new one in its place.
Quickly, man, where do you stand on independence?
Haven't I made that clear?
No!
No, I suppose I haven't. Well, that was the reason for the change. We've been instructed to vote for.
Mr. President, Massachusetts is ready for the vote on independence. And reminds the chair of his privilege to decide all votes that are deadlocked.
I won't forget Mr. Adams. The chair would like to welcome the Reverend Witherspoon and appoint him congressional chaplain if you will accept the post.
With much pleasure, sir.
Very well. Proceed, Mr. Thompson.
All those in favor of the resolution on independence as proposed by the colony of Virginia.
Mr. President,
Pennsylvania moves that any vote in favor of independence must be unanimous.
What?
I second the motion.
Judge Wilson!
Oh, my God.
Delaware. Seconds, Mr. President. No vote has ever had to be unanimous, Dickinson, and you know that.
Yes, but this one must be.
On what grounds?
That no colony be torn from its mother country without its own consent.
Hear, hear.
We'll never be unanimous, damn it!
If you say so, Mr. Adams.
It has been moved and seconded that the vote on independence must be unanimous in order to carry. All those in favor signify by saying yea.
Yay!
6 colonies say yea. All those opposed signify by saying nay.
Nay!
6 colonies say nay.
Mr. Secretary, New York abstains. Courteously.
Mr. Morris, why does New York constantly abstain? Why doesn't New York simply stay in New York? Very well. The vote is tied. The principles of independence have no greater advocates in Congress than its president. And that's the reason I must join those who vote for unanimity.
You've sung us!
Hear me out. Don't you see that any colony who opposes independence will be forced to fight the side of England? That will be setting brother against brother. That our new nation will carry as its emblem mark of Cain. I see no other way. Either together we walk, or together we stay where we are. Proceed, Mr. Thompson.
A unanimous vote being necessary in order to carry. If any be opposed to the resolution on independence as proposed by the colony of Virginia, signify by saying,
Mr. President,
for heaven's sake, let me get through it once.
I move for a postponement.
Postponement? Ah, I wish you the same luck I had with it.
President, Mr. Adams is right. We need a postponement.
On what grounds?
On what grounds?
Yes, well, how can this Congress vote on independence without a written declaration of some sort, defining its terms?
What sort of declaration?
Oh, well, you know, listing all the reasons for separation and our goals and aims for the future and so on and so forth, etc., etc. Ditto.
We know those, don't we?
God, yes, of course, we know that, but what about the rest of the world? Certainly we'll be requiring the aid of a powerful nation, like France or Spain. And such a declaration would be consistent with European delicacy.
Come now, Mr. Adams. You'll have to do better than that. Answer straight. What would be its purpose?
Yes. Well,
To place before mankind the common sense of the subject, in terms so plain and firm as to command their assent.
Mr. Jefferson, are you seriously suggesting that we publish a paper declaring to all the world that an illegal rebellion is, in reality, a legal one?
Mr. Dickinson, I'm surprised at you. You should know that rebellion is always legal. In the first person, such as our rebellion, it is only in the third person, their rebellion, that it is illegal. Mr. President, I second the motion to postpone the vote on independence for a period of time sufficient for the writing of a declaration.
It has been moved and seconded. Mr. Thompson.
All those in favor of the motion to postpone signify by saying yea.
Yay!
6 colonies say yea. Against?
nay.
6 colonies say nay.
Mr. Secretary, New York abstains. Courteously.
Mr. Morris, what in the hell goes on in New York?
that our legislature has never sent us explicit instructions on anything.
Never. That's impossible.
Have you ever been present at a meeting of the New York legislature? They speak very fast and very loud, and nobody pays attention to anybody else, with the result that nothing gets done. I beg the Congress's pardon.
My sympathies, Mr. Morris. The vote again being tied, the chair decides in favor of postponement. So ruled. A committee will now be formed to manage the declaration. Said document to be written, debated, and approved by the beginning of July, 3 weeks hence, at which time Virginia's resolution on independence will finally be voted. Is that clear? Very well. Will the following gentlemen serve on the Declaration Committee? Dr. Franklin, Mr. John Adams, Mr. Sherman, Mr. Livingston, and, of course, Mr. Lee.
Excuse me, but I must be returning to the sovereign country of Virginia, as I have been asked to serve as governor. Therefore, I must decline respectful leave.
You're right, Mr. Lee. You're excused. I suppose we can leave it on a four-man committee.
No. I say this business requires a Virginian. I propose a replacement. Mr. Thomas Jefferson.
No, it's not. Wait, no.
Very well, Mr. Adams. Mr. Jefferson will serve.
I have to go home too, to my wife.
I move to adjourn.
No, wait.
Second.
I haven't seen her in 6 months.
It has been moved and seconded. Any objections?
Yes, I have objections. Lots of objections.
So ruled. Congress stands adjourned.
All right then, gentlemen. Which of us will be the one to write our Declaration on Independence?
Mr. Adams, I say you should write it to your legal mind and really sweet it her.
Is that so? Well, if I'm the one to do it, they'll run their quills through it. I'm obnoxious and dislike. You know that, sir.
Yes, I know.
Then I say you should write it, Franklin. Yes, you.
Hell no.
Yes, you, Dr. Franklin. You.
But,
You.
Mr. Adams, Mr. Adams, the things I write are only light extemporea. I won't put politics on paper, it's a mania. So I refuse to use the pen in Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania, Pennsylvania, refuse to use the pen.
Mr. Sherman, I say you should write it. You were never controversial, as it were.
That is true.
Whereas if I'm the one to do it, they'll run their quill pens through it. I'm obnoxious and disliked. You know that, sir.
Yes, I do.
And I say you should write it, Roger. Yes, you.
Good heavens, no.
Yes, you, Roger Sherman. You.
But, Mr. Adams, I cannot write with any style or proper etiquette. I don't know a participle from a predicate. I am just a simple cobbler from Connecticut.
Connecticut, Connecticut, a simple cobbler he.
Mr. Livingston, maybe you should write it. You have many friends and you're a diplomat.
Oh, that word.
Whereas if I'm the one to do it, they'll run their quill pens through it.
He's obnoxious and disliked, did you know that?
I hadn't heard. Then I say you should write it, Robert. Yes, you.
Not me, Johnny.
Yes, you, Robert Livingston. You.
But,
You.
Mr. Adams, dear Mr. Adams, I've been presented with a new son by the middle store. So I am going home to celebrate and pop cork with all the Livingstons together back in old New York.
New York, New York, Livingston's going to pop a
Mr. Adams, leave me alone!
Mr. Jefferson.
Please, Mr. Adams, I haven't seen my wife these 6 months.
We solemnly declare that we will preserve our liberties, being with one mind resolved to die free men rather than to live slaves. Thomas Jefferson, on the necessity of taking up arms, 1775. Magnificent. You write 10 times better than any man in the Congress, including myself. At the age of 33, you possess a happy talent for composition and a remarkable felicity of expression. Now then, will you be a patriot or a lover?
A lover.
No!
But I burn, Mr. A!
So do I, Mr. J.
You do? John?
Who'd have thought? Mr. Jefferson, dear Mr. Jefferson, I'm only 41, I still have my virility. And I can romp through Cupid's grove with great agility. But life is more than sexual combustibility.
Combustibility.
What? So you'll write it, Mr. J.
Who will make me, Mr. A?
I.
You?
Yes.
How?
By physical force if necessary. It's your duty. Your duty, damn it!
Mr. Adams, damn you, Mr. Adams. You're obnoxious and disliked, that cannot be denied. Once again you stand between me and my lovely bride.
Lovely bride.
Oh, Mr. Adams, you are driving me to homicide!
The choice is yours, Mr. Jefferson. Do as you like with it.
We may see her again.
Damn the man! God damn the man!
Jefferson, are you finished, man? Is it done? Can I see it? There comes a time in the lives of men when it becomes necessary to advance from that subordination in which they have hitherto remained. This is terrible. Where's the rest of it? Do you mean to tell me it's not finished?
No, sir, I mean to tell you it's not begun.
God!
must tell me how you did it.
Disgusting. Look at him, Franklin. Virginia's most famous lover.
Virginia abstains. Courteously.
Cheer up, Jefferson. Get out of the dumps. It'll come out right sooner or later, I promise you. Now, get back to work. Franklin, tell him to get back to work.
He's asleep.
Blue. What girl are you? Who is she, John?
His wife. I hope.
What makes you think so?
Because I sent for him.
What?
I figured the sooner that his problem was solved, the sooner our problem will be solved.
Good thinking, John. Good thinking.
Madam, I present myself. John Adams. Adams. John Adams. And Dr. Franklin, inventor of the stove. Jefferson, would you kindly present me to your wife? Ah, good morning, madam. It's She is your wife, isn't she?
Of course she is, John. Look how they fit. Come along, John. Come along.
Come along where? There's work to be done.
Obviously.
Good God! You mean they're going to in the middle of the afternoon?
Not everyone's from Boston, John.
Incredible.
Well, good night.
Have you eaten?
Not yet, but
I hear the turkey's fresh and the bunch of grapes.
I have a rendezvous, John. I'd ask you along, but talking makes her nervous.
Incredible. Abigail. Oh, Abigail, I'm very lonely.
Are you? And as long as you're sending for wives, why don't you send for your own?
Don't be unreasonable, Abigail.
Now I'm unreasonable. You must add that to your list.
List?
The catalog of my faults you included in your last letter.
They were fondly intended, madam.
That my posture is troubled?
An endearment.
That I didn't play at cards badly?
A compliment.
That I read, write, and think too much?
An irony.
That I am pigeon-toed?
Ah, well, there you have me, Abby. I'm afraid you are pigeon-toed. Come to Philadelphia, Abby. Please come.
Thank you, John. I do want to, but you know that's not possible now. The children have measles.
Yes, so you wrote. Tom and little Abby.
Only now it's Quincy and Charles. And it appears the farm here in Braintree is failing, John. The chickens and geese have all died, and the apples never made it past the late frost. How do you suppose she managed to get away?
The winters are softer in Virginia.
And they're women, John.
Fit for Virginians, madam, but pale, puny things beside New England girls.
John, thank you for that.
How goes it with you, Abigail?
Not well. Not well at all. I live like a nun in a cloister, solitary, celibate. I hate it. And you, John?
I live like a monk in an abbey. Ditto. Ditto. I hate it.
Sorry to be late, John. I was up till all hours. Have you been here long?
No, not long.
And what are you doing out here? I expected you to be up there cracking the whip.
The curtains are still closed.
My word. So they are. Well, as the French
Oh,
say.
please, Franklin. Spare me your bawdy mind this early in the morning. Dare we call?
A congressman dares anything. Go ahead.
Me?
Your voice is more piercing.
Maybe we better come back tomorrow.
What?
Well, it's positively indecent.
Oh, John, they're young and they're in love.
Not them, Franklin. Us! Standing out here, waiting for them to... Oh, what will people think?
John, don't worry. The history books will clean it up.
It doesn't matter. The history books won't mention me. Only you. Franklin did this. Franklin did that. Franklin did some other damned thing. Franklin smote the ground and out sprang George Washington, fully grown and on his horse. Franklin then electrified them with his miraculous lightning rod, and the three of them, Franklin, Washington, and the horse, conducted the entire revolution by themselves.
I like it. Oh, John, look at her. Just look at her.
I am.
Oh, she's even more magnificent than I remember. Of course, we didn't see much of her front last night. Good morrow, madam.
Good morrow.
Is it the habit in Philadelphia for strangers to shout at ladies in the street?
Oh, not at all, but we're
And
not.
for men of your age, it is not only unseemly, it's unsightly.
Excuse me, madam, but we spoke last evening.
I spoke to no one last evening.
Indeed you did not, but nevertheless, we presented ourselves. This is Mr. John Adams, and I am Dr. Franklin. An inventor of the stove?
Oh, please, I know your names very well, but you say you presented yourselves.
Oh, it's of no matter. Your thoughts were well taken elsewhere.
My husband is not yet up.
Shall we start over? Please, join us, madam.
Yes, of course.
No wonder the man couldn't write. Who could think of independence married to her?
I beg you to forgive me. It is indeed an honor meeting the two greatest men in America.
Certainly the two greatest within earshot, anyway.
I am not an idle flatterer, Dr. Franklin. My husband admires you both greatly.
Then we are doubly flattered, madam, for we admire very much that which your husband admires.
Did you sleep well, madam?
John.
I mean, did you lie comfortably? Oh, you know what I mean.
Yes, John, we do. Tell us about yourself, madam. We've had precious little information. What's your first name?
Martha.
Ah, Martha. He might have at least told us that much. I'm afraid your husband doesn't say very much.
He's the most silent man in Congress. I've never heard him utter 3 sentences together.
Not everyone's a talker, John.
It's true, you know. Tom is not a talker. Oh, he never speaks his passions. He never speaks his views. Whereas other men speak volumes, the man I love is mute. In truth, I can't recall being moved with words at all, even now.
Go on, madam.
Yes, how did he win you? And is your long-ago bounty such as you? can that red-headed tombstone do?
He plays the violin. He tucks it right under his chin. And he blows, oh he blows, for he knows, yes he knows, that it's high, high, high. My heart, Tom is free, shoes are
Violin, madam.
I hear his violin, and I get that feeling. And I sigh, oh I sigh. He draws me very near, and it's high, 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 and goodbye. Shoes are
That settles it, John. We're taking up the violin.
You've got us playing the violin, Adam. What happens next?
Next, Mr. Adams.
Yes, what does Tom do now?
Well, should we begin to spend? We dance!
Dance?
Incredible.
1, 2, 3.
Oh wait, who's playing the violin?
Oh, John, really? John, you can dance.
Not everyone's from Philadelphia, Frankfurt.
I should have printed the Declaration after all. At my age, there's little doubt that the pen is mightier than the sword. For it's high, 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 diddle, diddle, and God bless the man who can fiddle.
And independency.
High, 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 ya-ta-ta-ta-ta. Through eternity, he plays the violin.
What follows is a complete and up-to-date list of the committees of this Congress now sitting, about to sit, or just having sat. A committee formed to investigate a complaint made against the quality of yeast manufactured at Mr. Henry King's mill, designated as the Yeast Committee. A committee formed to consider the most effective method of dealing with spies, designated as the Spies Committee. A committee formed to think, perhaps to do, but in any case, to gather, to meet, to converse, to talk, perhaps even to resolve that each rifle regiment be allowed at least one drum and one fife attached to each company, designated as the Drum and Fife Committee. A committee formed to
Look at it, Doctor. Democracy. What Plato called a charming form of government, full of variety and disorder. I never knew Plato had been to Philadelphia.
Now, open that damn window.
Ben, I want you to see some cards I've gone and had printed up that ought to save everybody a whole lot of time and effort, considering the epidemic of bad disposition that's been going around lately. It reads, Dear Sir, you are, without a doubt, a rogue, a rascal, a villain, a thief, a scoundrel, and a mean, dirty, stinking, sniveling, sneaking, pimping, pocket-picking, thrice double-damned, no-good son of a bitch. Can you sign your name? What do you think?
Stephen, I'll take a dozen right now.
a committee formed against all congressional correspondence, designated as the Congressional Correspondence Committee.
All right, Franklin, enough socializing. There's work to be done.
Good morning, John.
What? Oh, good morning, good morning. Now then, let's get to it.
Let's get to what?
Unanimity, of course. Look at that board. 6 nays to win over in a little more than a week.
A committee formed to consider the problem of counterfeit money, designated as the Counterfeit Money Committee.
Well, where do we start?
How about Delaware? It's a sad thing to find her on the wrong side of all this. Is there any news of Rodney?
McKean's back.
Thomas!
A committee formed to study the cause of our military defeat in Canada, designated as the Military Defeat Committee.
How did you leave Caesar? Is he still alive?
Died. But the journey to Dover was fearful hard on him. He never complained that I could see the poor man was so.
But you got him safely home.
I did. But I doubt he'll ever set foot out to bid again.
That leaves you and Reed split down the middle. Will they come over?
They don't know. He's a stubborn little snob.
Work on him. Keep at him till you wear him down.
Ah, John. This fox, will ya? If I thought just that he'd stand in our way, it wouldn't be so bad. But take a look for yourself, man. Manolins, Pennsylvania, the entire South. It's impossible.
It's impossible if we all stand here complaining about it. To work, McKees. One foot in front of the other.
Oh, I believe I put it a better way. Never leave off till tomorrow. That which you can do.
Oh, shut up!
But what's good will it do? You know Dickinson, he'll never give in. And you haven't heard the last of Rutledge yet either.
Never mind then. Your job is George Reed. Talk him deaf if you have to, but bring us back Delaware.
There's a simpler way. This'll break the tie!
Well, girls, who's next?
A committee formed to keep secrets, designated as the Secrets Committee.
Pennsylvania and Maryland. I suggest you put your own house in order while I take a crack at old Bacon Face. Look at him stuff himself. Ah, Mr. Chase. How about it, Chase? When are you coming to your senses?
Please, Mr. Adams. Not while I am eating.
Mr. Wilson, the time has come to assert yourself. When you were a judge, how in hell did you ever make a decision?
The decisions I made were all based on legality and precedence. And there is no legality here, and certainly no precedent.
That's because it's a new idea, you clot. We'll be setting our own precedents.
is waiting on you. America's waiting. The whole world is waiting. Ooh, what is that, Kitty?
Leave me alone, Mr. Adams. You're wasting your time. If I thought we could win this war, I'd be at the front of your ranks. But you must know it's impossible. You've heard General Washington's dispatches. His army has fallen apart.
Washington's exaggerating the situation in order to arouse this torpid Congress into action. Why, as chairman of the War Committee, I can tell you for a fact that this army has never been in better shape. Never have troops been more cheerful. Never have soldiers been more resolute. Never has discipline and training been more spirited. Never has... Good God.
May we have your ears, gentlemen. Mr. Thompson has a new dispatch.
From the Commander, Army of the United Colonies in New York, dispatch number 1157. To the Honorable Congress, John Hancock, President, dear sir. It is with the utmost despair that I must report to you the confusion and disorder that reign in every department. The Continental soldier is as nothing has ever seen in this or any other century. He is a misfit, ignorant of hygiene, destructive, disorderly, and totally disrespectful of rank. Only this last is understandable, as there is an incredible reek of stupidity amongst the officers. The situation is most desperate in the New Jersey training ground in New Brunswick, where every able-bodied whore in the colonies is assembled. There are constant reports of drunkenness, desertion, foul language, naked bathing in the Raritan River, and an epidemic of the French disease. I have declared the town off the list of all military personnel, with the exception of officers. I beseech the Congress to dispatch the War Committee to place in the hope of restoring the order and discipline we need to survive. Your obedience, G. Washington.
The man was a pleasure hanging out.
Well, Mr. Adams, you're chairman of the War Committee. Do you feel up to whoring, drinking, deserting, and New Brunswick?
There must be some mistake here. I have an aunt who lives in New Brunswick.
You must tell her to keep up the good work. Come, Mr. Adams. Surely you must see that it's hopeless. Let us recall General Washington and disband the Continental Army before we are overwhelmed.
Oh, yes. The English would like that, wouldn't they?
Why not ask them yourself? They ought to be here any minute.
And when they hang you, Mr. Adams, I hope you'll put in a good word for the rest of us.
Face facts, Mr. Adams. A handful of drunk and disorderly recruits versus the entire British Army, the finest musketmen on earth. How can we win? How can we even hope to survive?
Tell me straight, Chase. If you thought we could beat the Redcoats, would Maryland say yay to independence?
Well, I suppose...
No supposing, Chase. Would you or wouldn't you?
Very well, Mr. Adams. Yes, we would.
Then come with me to New Brunswick and see for yourself.
John, are you mad?
You heard what Washington said. It's a shambles up there.
Yeah, push me into it, Johnny.
How about it, Chase?
Go ahead, Sam. Sounds lively as hell up there.
All right. Why not? And maybe it'll be John Adams who comes to his senses.
Mr. President, the War Committee will heed General Washington's request and dispatch a party immediately consisting of Dr. Franklin, Mr. Chase, and myself.
Is that satisfactory with you, Dr. Franklin?
Wake up, Franklin. You're going to New Brunswick.
Like hell I am. What for?
The whoring and the drinking.
There's no time to lose. Left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right.
Mr. McNair, all this talk of independence has left a certain balance in the air. My friends and I would appreciate it if you could open up some windows.
What about the fly?
The windows, Mr. McNair.
Open the windows, close the windows.
Sweet Jesus. Oh, say, do you see what I see? Congress sitting here in sweet serenity. I could cheer, the reason's clear. For the first time in a year, Adams isn't here. Ah, look, the sun is in the sky, a breeze is blowing by, and there's not a single fly. Come sing Hosanna, 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 and it's cool. Come ye cool, cool, conservative men, our like may never ever be seen again. We have land, cash in hand, self-command, future plan. Fortune thrives, society survives, in New York lies, with well-endowed wives. Come sing Hosanna, Hosanna, in our breeding and our manner, we are cool. Come ye cool, cool, consider it set, we'll dance together to the same minuet. To the right, ever to the right, never to the left, forever to the right. Let our creed be never to exceed, regulated speed, no matter what the need. Come sing Hosanna, Hosanna, emblazoned on our banner, is he cool?
To the right, ever to the right, never to the left, forever to the right.
Hands attached, ties to latch, everybody match.
I have a new dispatch. From the Commander, Army of the United Colonies of New York, dispatch number 1158. To the Honorable Congress, John Hancock, President, dear sir. I awoke this morning to find that General Howe has sent 25,000 British regulars and Hessian mercenaries to Staten Island. And the fleet under command of brother, Admiral Lord Howe, controls not only the Hudson and East Rivers, but New York Harbor, which now looks like all of London afloat. I can no longer in good conscience withhold from the Congress my certainty that the British military object at this time is Philadelphia. Happy should I be if I could see the means preventing me, but at present I confess I do not. Oh, how I wish I had never seen the Continental Army. I would have done better to retire to the back country and live in a wigwam. Your obedient, G. Washington.
What we do rationally. We never ever go off half cocks, not we. Why begin till we know that we can win? And if we cannot win, why bother to begin?
Say this game's not of our choosing. Why should we risk losing?
Cool man. Mr. Hancock, you're a man of property, one of us. Why not join us in our minuets? Why must you persist in dancing with John Adams? Good Lord, sir, you don't even like him.
That is true. He annoys me quite a lot, but still I'd rather trot to Mr. Adams' new gallant.
But why, sir? Some personal glory. For placing in history. Be careful, sir. This will rank him and his followers as traitors.
Traitors to what, Mr. Dickens? The British crown or the British half-crown? Fortunately, there are not enough men of property in America to dictate policy.
Perhaps not. But don't forget that most men with nothing would rather protected the possibility of being rich than faced the reality of being poor. And that's why they will follow us!
Right, ever to the right, never to the left, forward ever to the right. Where there's gold, on market that will fall, tradition to be bold, reluctant to be bold.
I sing Hosanna, Hosanna, in a sane and lucid manner. We are cool. Where's the cool, cool, considerate men whose lives can never be seen again?
We have land, cash in hand, self-command, future planned, and we'll hold to our goal. Tradition that is old, reluctant to be bold. We say this game's not of our choosing. Why should we risk losing?
I feel like you should try to borrow a dollar from them, huh? Want another rum, Joe?
General, Lord, I need the corporal.
Yeah? Oh, let's go. I'm okay. Sit down, gentlemen. The chair rules that it is too damn hot to do any work.
Here, here.
So, what's it like out there, General?
You probably know more than me.
Sitting in here? Sweet Jesus, this is the last place you go to find out what's going on.
I'm in to join up.
What are you talking about? You don't have to join up. You're in the Congress.
What's that got to do with it?
You don't see one of them rushing off to get killed, do you? No, but sure, they are awful great for sending others, I'll tell you that.
Who sits here?
Oh, that means he's Rodney of Delaware. Where are you from, General?
Watertown,
Where is that?
Massachusetts.
Then you belong down there. But, be careful. There's something about that chair that makes a man awful noisy.
You seen any fighting?
Sure did. I see my two best friends get shot dead the very same day. Right out the village green it was, too. And when they didn't come home for supper, their mamas went down the hill looking for them. Miss Lowe, she found Timothy right off, but Miss Pickett, she looked near half the night for William because he got caught up the green before he died.
and I'll bury you, my Billy, beneath the maple tree. And never again will you whisper to me.
The Secretary will now read the report of the Declaration Committee. Mr. Thompson.
A declaration by the representatives of the United States of America and General Congress assembled. When in the course of human events it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve political bands which have connected them with another, and to assume both the powers of the earth, the separate and equal stations to which the laws of nature and of nature's God entitle them. A decent respect to the opinions of mankind requires that they should declare the causes which impel them to this separation. They hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights.
Jefferson, we're back, and we've got Maryland! That is, we will, as soon as Chase finishes telling the Maryland Assembly what we saw in New Brunswick.
He's in Annapolis right now, describing a ragtag group of provincial militiamen who couldn't train together, drill together, or march together. But when a flock of ducks flew overhead, and they saw their first dinner in 3 full days, sweet Jesus, could they shoot together? It was a slaughter.
They're reading the Declaration.
What? How far have they gone?
To render the military independent of and superior to the civil power.
Independent of and superior to...
Well, there's nothing to fear. It's a masterpiece. I'm to be congratulated. For making him write it.
Yes, of course.
It's a masterpiece, I say. They will cheer every word, every letter.
I wish I felt that way.
I believe I can put it better. Now then, attend as friend to friend our Declaration Committee. For us I see immortality in Philadelphia City. A farmer, a lawyer, and a sage, a bit gouty in the leg. You know it's quite bizarre to think that here we are, playing midwives to an egg.
Egg? What egg?
America, the birth of a new nation.
If only we could be sure what kind of bird it's going to be.
Tom's right. What sort of bird should we choose as the symbol for our new America?
The eagle.
The dove.
The turkey.
The eagle.
The dove.
The eagle.
The eagle.
The turkey.
The eagle is a majestic bird.
The eagle is a thief and a scavenger, and the symbol of more than 10 centuries of European mischief.
And the turkey.
A truly noble bird,
native of America, a source of sustenance for our settlers, and an incredibly brave fellow who wouldn't flinch from fighting an entire regiment of Englishmen. Therefore, the national bird of America is going to be...
The eagle.
The eagle.
We're waiting for the
Chirp, 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 of an eaglet being born, waiting for the chirp, 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 on this humid Monday morning in this congressional incubator. God knows the temperature's hot enough to hatch a stone, let alone an egg.
We're waiting for the
Scratch, 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 of that tiny little fellow, waiting for the egg to hatch on this humid Monday morning in this congressional incubator.
God knows the temperature's hot enough to hatch a stone, but will it hatch an egg? This declaration is a triumph, I tell you. If I was ever sure of anything, I am sure of that. A triumph. And if it isn't, we've still got 4 days left to think of something else. The eagle's going to crack the shell of the egg that it will lay.
Yes, so we can tell on this humid Monday morning in this congressional incubator. And just as Tom here has written, though the shell may belong to Great Britain, the eagle inside belongs to us. And just as Tom here has written, we say to hell with Great Britain, the eagle inside belongs to us.
And that as free and independent states, they have full power to levy war, conclude peace, contract alliances, establish commerce, to do all other acts and things which free and independent states may of right do. And for the support of this declaration, we mutually pledge to each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor.
Very well. Thank you, Mr. Thompson. The Congress has heard the report of the Declaration Committee. Are there any who wish to offer amendments, deletions, or alterations to the Declaration? Gentlemen, please. McNair, you better open the window. Colonel McKean, I saw your hand first.
Dog. It's a body paper you've written, but somewhere, and it's, you've mentioned Scottish and foreign mercenaries sent to destroy us. Scottish, Dom.
It's in reference to a Highland regiment which stood against us at Boston.
Doc, it was more likely Germans wearing kilts to disguise their being there. I ask you to remove the word and avoid giving offense to a good people.
Mr. Jefferson?
Mr. Hancock, sir.
President Stanhope.
Reverend Witherspoon?
Mr. Jefferson, nowhere in your document do you mention the Supreme Being. Clearly this is an oversight, as how can we hope to achieve a victory without his help? Therefore, I humbly suggest the following addition. With a firm alliance on the protection of divine providence.
Mr. Jefferson?
Mr. President, right here.
Mr. Reed?
Amongst your charges against the king, Mr. Jefferson, you accuse him of depriving us of the benefits of trial by jury. This is untrue, sir. In Delaware, we have always had trial by jury.
In Massachusetts, we have not.
Oh. Then I suggest that the words, in many cases, be added.
enough.
Mr. President, please stand on guard, sir.
Mr. Hopkins.
Oh, no objections, Johnny. I'm just trying to get a drink.
I should have known. McNair, give him a rum. Mr. Bartlett.
Mr. Jefferson, I beg you to remember that we still have friends in England, and I see no purpose in antagonizing them with such phrases as unfeeling brethren and enemies in war. Our quarrel is with the British king, not the British people.
Be sensible, Bart. Removing those phrases would delete the meaning of the entire paragraph. And it so happens it's among the most stern and poetic of any
We are a Congress, Mr. Adams, not a literary society. I ask that the entire paragraph be stricken.
Mr. Jefferson?
Good God, man! Do you ever intend to speak up for your own work?
I'd hoped that the work would speak for itself.
Mr. Hancock?
What is it, Mr. McNair?
I can't say that I'm fond of the United States of America as the name of a country.
I don't care what you're fond of, Mr. McNair. You're a member of this Congress. Mr. Sherman.
Reverend Jefferson, I noted at least two distinct and direct references to the British Parliament in your declaration. Do you think it's wise to alienate that august body in light of our contention that they've never had any direct authority over us anyway?
Good God! This is a revolution, damn it! We're going to have to offend somebody!
John, you're going to have an attack of apoplexy if you're not careful.
Have you heard what they're doing to it? Have you heard?
Yes, I've heard.
And this has only been our friends. Can you imagine what our enemies will do to it?
The word parliament will be removed wherever it occurs.
They won't be satisfied until they remove one of the F's from Jefferson's name.
Courage, John. Won't last much longer.
Mr. Dickens.
Mr. Jefferson, I have very little interest in your paper, as there is no doubt in my mind that we've all but heard the last of it. But I'm curious as to one thing. Why do you refer to King George as a tyrant?
Because he is a tyrant.
I remind you, Mr. Jefferson, that this tyrant is still your king.
When a king becomes a tyrant, he thereby breaks the contract binding his subjects to him.
How so?
By taking away their rights.
The rights that come from him in the first place.
All except for one. The right to be free comes from nature.
Mr. Wilson, do we in Pennsylvania consider the king a tyrant?
Well, I don't know. Oh, no, he's not a tyrant in Pennsylvania.
There you are, Mr. Jefferson. Your declaration does not speak for us all. I demand the word tyrant be removed.
Just a moment, Mr. Thompson. I do not consent. The king is a tyrant whether we say so or not. You might as well say so.
But I already scratched it out.
Then scratch it back in!
Put it back, Mr. Thompson. The king will remain silent.
Mr. President.
Mr. Hughes.
Mr. Jefferson, nowhere do you mention deep sea fishing.
Fishing rights! How much longer is this piddling to go on? We have been sitting here for 3 full days. We have endured, by my count, 85 separate changes and the removal of close to 400 different words, which you whip and beat until you break its spirit. tell you, this document is a masterful expression of the American mind.
If there are no more changes, then I can assume the reports of the Declaration Committee.
Just a moment, Mr. President.
Look out.
I wonder if we could prevail upon Mr. Thompson to read again a small portion of Mr. Jefferson's declaration. The one beginning, he has waged cruel war.
Mr. Thompson.
He has affected, he has constrained, he has advocated, he has plundered, he has primed, he has excited, he has incited, he has waged cruel war. Here it is. He has waged cruel war against human nature itself and the persons of distant people who have never vetted him, captivating and carrying them into slavery in another hemisphere, determined to keep open a market where men are bought and sold. He has prostitutes.
That will suffice, Mr. Thompson. I thank you. Mr. Jefferson, I can't quite make out what is you're talking about here.
Slavery, Mr. Rutledge.
Ah, you're referring to us as slaves of the king.
No, sir. I'm referring to our slaves. Black slaves.
Ah, black slaves. Well, why didn't you say so, sir? Were you trying to hide your meaning?
No, sir.
Just another literary license, then.
If you like.
I don't like it at all, Mr. Jefferson. To us in South Carolina, black slavery is our peculiar institution and a cherished way of life.
Nevertheless, we must abolish it. Nothing is more certainly written in the Book of Fate than that this people shall be free.
I'm not concerned with the Book of Fate right now, sir. I'm more concerned with what's written in your little paper right there.
That little paper, deals with freedom for Americans.
Oh, really? Mr. Adams is now calling our black slaves Americans. Are they now?
They are. They're people and they're here. If there's any other requirement, I've never heard it.
They are here, yes. But they are not people, sir. They are property.
No, sir! They are people being treated as property. I tell you, the rights of human nature are deeply wounded by this infamous practice.
Then see to your own wounds, Mr. Jefferson. For you are a practitioner, are you not?
I have already resolved to release my slaves.
Then I'm sorry. For you have also resolved the ruination of your own personal economy.
Economy. Always economy with you, Rutledge. There's more to this than a filthy purse string. It's an offense against man and God.
It's a stinking business, Mr. Rutledge. A stinking business.
Is it really, Mr. Hopkins? Then what's that I smell floating down from the north? Could it be the aroma of hypocrisy? For who holds the other end of that filthy purse string, Mr. Adams? Our northern brethren are feeling a bit tender toward our slaves. They don't keep slaves, no. But they're willing to be considerable carriers of slaves to others. They are willing for the shilling. Oh, haven't you heard, Mr. Adams? Clink, clink. Molasses to rum to slaves. Oh, what a beautiful waltz. You dance with us, we dance with you in molasses and rum and slaves. Sail the ships out of Boston, laden with Bibles and rum. Who drinks a toast to the Ivory Coast? Hail Africa, the slavers have come. New England, where shall we dance to the sound of the profitable pound, molasses and rum and slaves? Who sail the ships out of Guinea, laden with vials and slaves? 'Tis Boston can boast to the West Indies coast, Jamaica we brung what ye craves, Antigua, Barbados, we brung Bibles and slaves. Gentlemen, you mustn't think our northern friends merely see our slaves as figures on the ladder. Oh no, sir, they see them as figures on the block. Notice the faces at the auctions, gentlemen. White faces on African wharves. New England faces. Seafaring faces. Put them in the ships. Cram them in the ships. Stuff them in the ships. Hurry, gentlemen, let the auction begin. Yaha, yaha, mahakunda. Gentlemen, do you hear? That's the cry of the auctioneer. Yaha, yaha, mahakunda. Slaves, gentlemen, black gold, living gold, gold from Angola, Guinea, 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 blackbirds for sale, Ashanti, Igbo, 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 blackbirds for sale. Handle them, fondle them, but don't finger them. Their prime, their prime. Yaha, yaha, mahakunda. Yaha, yaha.
For the love of God, Mr. Rutledge! Please.
Molasses to rum to slaves who sail the ships back to Boston, laden with gold. See it gleam, whose fortunes are made in the triangle trade. Hail slavery, the New England dream. Mr. Adams, I give you a toast. Hail Boston! Hail Charleston! Who stanketh the most?
Mr. Rutledge, Mr. Hughes, Dr. Hall!
Don't worry, John. They'll be back.
Aye, to vote us down.
Mr. Adams, Franklin, I've got it! And the Maryland Assemblies approved it. I told them about one of the greatest military engagements in history against a flock of... What's wrong? I thought...
You'll have to forgive them, Mr. Chase. They've suffered a slight setback. After all, what is man profited if you shall gain Maryland and lose the entire South? Matthew, chapter 16, verse 26.
Yeah, yes, the flies now. No, rum.
Mr.
Mr. Livingston. Well, what are you all just sitting there for? We're wasting time. Precious time! Mickey, I want you to ride down to Delaware and fetch back Caesar Rodney.
John, are you mad? It's 80 miles on horseback, and he's a dying man.
No! He's a patriot.
John, what good will it do? The South's done us in.
And supposing they change their minds, can we get Delaware without him?
God, what a bastardly bunch we are.
Stephen.
I'll be at the tavern, Johnny. If there's anything I can do for you there, let me know.
Jeez. Bartlett!
What's the use, John? The vote's tomorrow morning. There's less than a full day left.
Roger!
Face facts, John. It's finished.
I'm sorry, John.
We've no other choice, John. The slavery clause has to go.
Franklin, what are you saying?
It's a luxury we can't afford.
A luxury. 500,000 souls in chains, and Dr. Franklin calls it a luxury. Maybe you should have walked out with the South.
You forget yourself, sir. I founded the first anti-slavery society on this continent.
Don't wave your credentials at me. Maybe it's time you renewed them.
The issue here is independence.
Maybe you've lost sight of that fact, but I have not. How dare you jeopardize our cause after we've come so far? These men, no matter how much we disagree with them, are not ribbon clerks to be ordered around. They are proud, accomplished men, the cream of their colonies. And whether you like it or not, they and the people they represent will be a part of this new country you'd hope to create. Either learn to live with them, or pack up and go home! But in any case, stop acting like a Boston fishwife.
God. What's happened to me? John Adams. The great John Adams, wise man of the East. What have I come to? My law practice down the pipe. My farm mortgaged to the hilt. At a stage in life where other men prosper, I'm reduced to living in Philadelphia. Philadelphia! Out there. What am I going to do? John? I need your help. You don't
usually ask for my advice?
Yes, well, doesn't appear to be anyone else right now.
Very well, John. What is it?
The entire South has walked out on this Congress. George Washington is on the verge of total annihilation. The precious cause for which I labored these several years has come to nothing. And it seems I am obnoxious and dislike nonsense, John. That I am unwilling to face reality. That I am pig-headed.
There you have me, John. I'm afraid you are pig-headed.
Has it been any kind of a life for you, Abby? God knows I haven't given you much.
I never asked for more. Besides, I am Mrs. John Adams. That's quite a lot for one lifetime.
Is it, Abby?
Think of it, John. To be married to the man who's always first in line to be hanged.
Yes. Adjective. What is it, Abby? You must tell me what it is. I've always been dissatisfied. I know that. Lately, I find that I reek of discontentment. It fills my throat and floods my brain, and sometimes I fear that there is no longer a dream, only this discontentment.
Oh, John. Can you really know so little of yourself? And can you think so little of me that you believe that I married the man that you have described? Have you forgotten what you used to say to me? I haven't. Commitment, Abby. Commitment. There are only two creatures of value on the face of this earth. Those with the commitment and those who require the commitment of others. Do you remember, John?
I remember.
Mr. Adams,
What?
these are for you.
Just a minute. What are they? What's in them? Who sent them?
The conquering ladies coming home with the sisterhood, the church snow, and the Friday evening Baptist Sunday circle, and the holy Christian sisters of St. Clair, all for you,
Just a minute, Abigail. What's in those kegs? McNabb, I want you to go out and buy every damn pin in Philadelphia.
Pins? What sort of pins?
I don't know. Whatever kind ladies use in their sewing. Take that keg to the army. Hurry, man! Franklin, Jefferson, what are you just sitting around for? There's work to be done.
John, Didn't you hear a word I said?
Never mind that. Here's what you've got to do.
John, I'm not even speaking to you.
There's no time for that, damn it! Time's running out. Get up! Get out of your chair! Tomorrow is here. Too late. Too late for despair. Jefferson, talk to Rutledge. Talk. Take all night, but keep talking. Talk and talk and talk. You're both Southern aristocrats, gentlemen. You can listen to anyone who listen to you. Franklin, time's running out.
I know. Get out of my chair. Do I have to talk to Wilson?
You do. Take all night, but keep talking. Talk and talk and talk. Getting away from Dickinson. That's the only way to do it.
Do my best.
I'm still from Massachusetts, John. You know where I stand. I'll do whatever you say.
No. You are the President of Congress. You're a fair man, Hancock. Stay that way. Well, Mr. Thompson, curiosity. Do you stand with Mr. Dickinson? Do you stand with me?
I stand with the general. Lately, I've had the oddest feeling he's been writing to me. I have been in expectation of receiving a reply on the subject of my last 15 dispatches. Is anybody there? Does anybody care? Does anybody care? You're humble and obedient.
Are you hungry, John?
No, I think I'll stay.
Good night, then.
Is anybody there? Does anybody care? Does anybody see? I see. They want me to quit. They say, John, give up the fight. But to England I say, good night, forever good night. For I have crossed the Rubicon. Let the bridge be burned behind me. Come what may, come what may. Commitment! The croakers all say through the day. Tell me hell to pay in fiery purgatory. Through all
sorry if I startled you. I couldn't sleep. In trying to resolve my dilemma, I remembered something that I'd once read. That a representative owes the people not only their industry, but their judgment. And they betray them if they sacrifice it to their opinion. It was written by Edmund Burke. A member of the British Parliament.
Congress will now vote on Virginia's resolution on independence. Thank you for coming, Caesar. And God bless you, sir. Call the roll, Mr. Thompson. And I'd remind you, gentlemen, that a single nay vote will defeat the motion. Mr. Thompson.
New Hampshire.
New Hampshire says yay.
New Hampshire says yay. Massachusetts. Massachusetts says yay. Massachusetts says yay. Rhode Island.
Rhode Island says yay.
Rhode Island says yay. Connecticut.
Connecticut says yay.
Connecticut says yay. New York.
New York abstains. Courteously.
New York abstains.
Courteously.
New Jersey.
New Jersey says yay.
New Jersey says yay. Pennsylvania.
Mr. Secretary, Pennsylvania isn't ready yet. Come back to us.
Pennsylvania passes. Delaware.
Delaware, by majority vote, says yay.
Well done, sir.
Maryland.
Maryland says yay.
Maryland says yay. Virginia.
Virginia says yay.
Virginia says yay. North Carolina.
North Carolina respectfully yields to South Carolina.
South Carolina.
Well, Mr. Adams?
Well, Mr. Rutledge.
Mr. Adams, you must believe. I will do what I've promised to do.
What do you want, Rutledge?
Remove the offending passage from your declaration.
Can't you see that by doing that, we would be guilty of the very sin we ourselves are rebelling against?
Nevertheless, remove it, or South Carolina will bury now and forever your dream of independence.
John, I beg you to consider what you're doing.
Mark me, Franklin. If we give in on this issue, posterity will never forgive us.
That's probably true. But we won't hear any of that. We'll be long gone. And besides, what will posterity think we were? Demigods? We are men, no more, no less. trying to get a nation started against greater odds than a more generous God would have allowed. John, first things first. Independence. America. Or if we don't secure that, what difference will the rest make?
Jefferson, do something.
What else is there to do?
Well, man, you were the one who wrote it.
I wrote all of it, Mr. Adams.
There you have your precious slavery, Rutledge, and little good may it do you. Now vote, damn you.
Mr. Secretary, the fair colony of South Carolina says yea.
South Carolina says yay.
North Carolina says yay.
North Carolina says yay. Georgia.
Georgia says yay.
Georgia says yay. Pennsylvania, second call.
Mr. President, Pennsylvania regrets all of the inconvenience that such distinguished men as Adams, Franklin, and Jefferson were put to just now. They have been able to keep their documents intact for whatever difference it may make. Mr. President, Pennsylvania says...
Just a moment. I ask that the delegation be polled.
Dr. Franklin, don't be
A
absurd.
poll, Mr. President. It's a proper request.
Yes, it is. Poll the delegation, Mr. Thompson.
Dr. Benjamin Franklin.
Yay.
Mr. John Dickinson.
Nay.
Mr. James Wilson. Judge Wilson.
There it is, Mr. Wilson. It's all up to you now. The entire question of American independence rests squarely on your shoulders. An entirely new nation waiting to be born or to die in birth. All on your say-so. Which is it going to be, Mr. Wilson? Every mapmaker in the world is waiting for your decision.
Come now, James. Nothing has changed. We mustn't let Dr. Franklin create another one of his confusions. The question is clear.
Most questions are clear when someone else has to decide them.
It would be a pity for the man responsible for handing down hundreds of wise decisions from the bench to be remembered only for the one unwise decision he made in Congress.
James, you're keeping everybody waiting.
Please.
The secretary has called for your vote.
Please, John, don't push me. I know what you want me to do, but Mr. Adams is right about one thing. I'll be the one remembered for it.
What do you mean?
I'm different from you, John. I'm different from most men here. I don't want to be remembered. I just don't want the responsibility.
Well, whether you like it or not, James, there's no way of avoiding it.
Not necessarily. If I go with them, I'll be one among dozens. No one will remember the name James Wilson. But if I vote with you, I'll be the man who prevented American independence. I'm sorry, John. I just didn't bargain for that.
And is this how new nations are formed? By an entity trying to protect the anonymity he so richly deserves?
Revolutions come into this world like bastard children, Mr. Dickinson. Half improvised and half compromised. Our side has provided the compromise. Now Judge Wilson is supplying the rest.
James. I'm sorry, John. My vote is yay.
Pennsylvania says yay. We count. 12 to none. One abstention. The resolution on independence is adopted. It's done. It's done.
Mr. Thompson, is the declaration ready to be signed?
It is.
Then I suggest we do so. And the chair further proposes, for our mutual security and protection, that no man be allowed to sit in this Congress without attaching his name to it.
Mr. President, I cannot, in good conscience, sign such a document. I will never stop hoping for eventual reconciliation with England. It's because, in my own way, I regard America no less than does Mr. Adams. I will join the army and fight in her defense, even though I believe that fight to be hopeless. Goodbye, gentlemen.
Gentlemen of the Congress, I say ye John Dickinson.
Gentlemen, are there any objections to the declaration being approved as it now stands?
I have an objection, Mr. President.
You, Mr. Adams.
Yes. Mr. Jefferson, it so happens that the word is unalienable, not inalienable.
I'm sorry, Mr. Adams, but inalienable is correct.
I happen to be a Harvard graduate, Mr. Jefferson.
And I attended William and Mary, Mr. Adams.
Gentlemen, please. Mr. Jefferson, will you yield to Mr. Adams' request?
No, sir, I will not.
Very well. I'll withdraw it.
Good for you, John.
I'll speak to the printer about it later.
Very well, gentlemen. We are about to brave the storm in a skiff made of paper. And how it will end, God only knows.
It's a pretty large signature, Johnny.
So Fat George in London can read it without his glasses. Step right up, gentlemen. Don't miss your chance to commit treason.
Mr. Hancock's right. That paper is our passport to the gallows. But there's no turning back now. For if we don't hang together, we will most assuredly hang separately.
Well, in my case, hanging won't be so bad. One snap and it'll be over. Just like that. But take a look at 3 there. I'll be dancing a jig long after that.
Forgive me, gentlemen, if I don't join in the merriments, but if arrested now, my name is still the only one on the damn thing.
From the Commander, Army of the United States, in New York. Dispatch number 1209. To the Honorable Congress, John Hancock, President, dear Sir. I can now report with some certainty that the eve of battle in New York is near at hand. Towards this end, I have ordered the evacuation of Manhattan and directed our defenses to take up stronger positions on the Brooklyn Heights. At the present time, my forces consist entirely of Castellar militia and Smallwoods Marylanders, a total of 5,000 troops to stand against 25,000 of the enemy. And I begin to notice that many of them are lads under 15 and old men, none of whom can truly be called soldiers. On a personal note, to Mr. Lewis Morris of New York. I must regretfully report that his estates have been totally destroyed, but that I have taken the liberty of transporting Mrs. Morris and aided the children to Connecticut in safety. The 4 older boys are now enlisted in the Continental Army. As I write these words, the enemy is plainly in sight beyond the river. How it will end, only Providence can direct, but dear God, what brave men I shall lose before this business ends. Your obedient, G. Washington.
McNair, go ring the bell.
Mr. President,
Mr. Morris.
to hell with New York. I'll sign it anyway.
Thank you, Mr. Morris. Stephen, sit down.
No. I want to remember the face of each man as he signs.
Very well. Proceed, Mr. Thompson.
New Hampshire. Dr. Josiah Bartlett.